Hello, and thanks for joining me here on my channel, Stamp with Julie Baum. Today's video spotlights the 3 card projects that we are making at Stamp Club in February of 2025. And these are the stamp sets that we will be using. I wanted to bring special attention just quickly to the Delightful Wishes stamp set, which is currently available as a bundle with the coordinating dies. It's one of those die sets that when you initially look at, you might not realize all the great things that are hidden in here. Now, this is not all of the dies. I do have some of them set aside because I am getting ready to use them in club. But I wanted to show you just a snapshot of the dies. And what I'm going to show you that will be very helpful is this little cheat sheet that I made. I'll be showing this to the gals who come to Stamp Club Live, my VIPs, and I'm sure this will be helpful, but I wanted it to also be of help to you. This just gives you an idea of what can be done with all of those dies. I went ahead and cut them out and mounted them on this little cheat sheet so that you can see especially how you combine the dies that create the leaf, both the small one and the large one, and just how beautiful that turns out. Also how you can combine different dies together to make 2 sizes of flowers, 3 sizes, because there's also this little one. And then also on the script dies, you can either use a stamp and stamp the word wishing. Here's the stamp. You can stamp the word wishing and then cut it out with the die, or you can use the script die to cut the word out and then the shadow die to cut out the part behind it. So that's what I did here in both white with a black shadow and in black with a white shadow. So those are just some of the fun things that you can do that we're not doing all of that in the card, but I wanted you to realize just what a treasure all of these stamps and dies present in the Delightful Wishes stamp set. All right, let's get to beginning our first card, which is going to use the Delightful Wishes stamps, dies, and coordinating paper. So in your materials packet, if you are following along and doing Stamp Club at home, you'll find a peach pie piece of cardstock. This is your card base, and it is on purpose not scored down the middle because we are going to score it in 2 spots and we're not folding this down the center. So you're going to want to grab either your paper trimmer with a scoring blade in it or your simply scored, and we're going to make 2 score lines. We're going to score this cardstock at 3 inches and at 7 1/4 inches. All right, once you've done that, you can go ahead and grab your bone folder and reinforce those creases and make the folds. And then our card base is ready to go. All right, we are going to use the coordinating paper, and let me show you that next, and then we're going to jump into all of the die cuts. All right, so you have a piece that is either this pattern or very similar, basically a larger print pattern. This piece is going to get glued onto the front larger panel, this one. So let's just go ahead and do that right now. I'm using my multi-purpose liquid glue. A little goes a very long way, so you don't want to over glue to where it's maybe going to ooze out around the edges. Okay, I just opened my cardstock flat so that it would be a little bit easier to maneuver, and line this up with as equal of a border all the way around as you're able to do. Okay, that is in place. Now we're going to take our second piece of designer series paper, and you can decide if you want to use the piece that kind of looks like burlap, or if you want to use the print. I've done this card with both, and both of them look really good. It comes out great either way. So you can determine if you want another floral on this piece, or if you want to use this piece. So for today's card tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and have the brown, I think it's pecan pie, burlap looking piece on the upside showing. Same thing, just lay it down in the center of that panel and try to get an even border of that peach pie cardstock all the way around the edges. All right, now also in your packet, you have a white piece of cardstock, and that piece is going to go in the inside of the card. By the way, all of these measurements have been provided to those of you who are doing Stamp Club at home. And for those who are just viewing this on my YouTube channel, you can look in the description box below the video, and I've provided the dimensions for you there. All right, so your white piece is going to go on the inside, and we will do a little bit of stamping on it. So let's not glue it in quite yet. Okay, let's take a look at all of the die cuts. In your packet, you should have a green branch. I'm just showing you. This is what it looks like before you die cut it. So I used a green scrap, and this is old olive. So you should have that little piece. Then you have a piece of lemon lolly. You actually have the die cuts. So you have this one and this one. This is what it looks like before you pop it out of the scrap. So if you don't have the die cuts, you're going to need a scrap of lemon lolly to do those two die cuts. All right, then you're going to need a scrap of Daffodil Delight, and that is where we got this piece. Okay, that's going to create one of our flowers. And you have a scrap of, you will need a scrap of peach pie, and that is where we got this die cut. That is going to create one of our flowers. All right, then there is a die that will cut out two flower centers. I did them out of pecan pie. Let me bring those closer so you can see. All right. And if you are in Stamp Club at home, you have those provided for you. All right, then what you're going to need is a second scrap of lemon lolly and a scrap of white so that you can cut these two pieces out. This is Nested Essentials dies, and it's the smallest and then the next size up of those rounded rectangles. So you're going to get those cut out as well. All right, those are a lot of pieces. So let's start putting all of this together. All right, the first thing that I'm going to do is attach my branch to my card front. And this is a very skinny piece. And so you're either going to want to use your fine tip glue pen if you have one of these, which has a very fine tip, or you can still use your multi-purpose glue, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to make specific and very tiny dots on my little branch. So you can see, you can have a little larger dot on the areas that can accommodate a larger one, right where it branches off, and then some smaller ones on the skinny parts. All right, that is going to hold it just fine. And this is going to go down here in the corner and angle towards the left side like so. All right, there is our branch. All right, now let's put our flowers together. So we've got this smaller one here. You want to take your little peach pie part, and I can see I've got a couple little dots that didn't quite pop out from the die cutting. There we go. So if you have to do that, if you need to punch those out with your take your pick tool, you can just pop those out. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of glue again on the back of this. just in some strategic spots, and you don't need a whole lot. And then we're going to attach that to the flower. Now, just know it doesn't like exactly fit and line up with certain petals. It's a little bit abstract, and that's okay. So what I do is I line up this one on that petal, and then I kind of let the rest fall where they may. If you feel better about doing it a different way, then have at it. All right, then I'm also going to put the center. Now you've got some options. I can take my glue and put a little dab here and then put my flower center, or I can pick up my flower center using my take your pick tool, apply a little bit of glue to the back of it, and well, now that it came off of here, it's on here, that's fine too, and transfer it to my flower. So there's not a lot of rules as to how you do this. You just want to get your flower center onto your flower. And it's also very abstract. I don't know if this is the way that you think it goes or if it should be spun around, but honestly, it comes out looking great no matter what. So there's our first flower. Now let's put our second flower together. This one does line up a little bit better, and so let me see if I can help you with how that's going to go. I'm trying to see how I did mine and see if that helps you a little bit. Let's try this. All right, that's the direction I'm going to go. So let me point out that I've got this little rounded petal shape, which is kind of unique because these are all kind of square or pointy. So this little rounded one is over here at about 10 o'clock, if this was a clock. And then I'm taking my die cut and lining it up like so. Again, if that doesn't work for you, then you can just turn it and twist it and put it wherever you like. But I'm happy with how that looks. And so I'm going to put my little dabs of glue on the back of this. There's some nice large spots for you to do that. And you can get that into place. Okay, then we're going to add the center of that one. This time I'll just put my dab there, drop my center onto it, and press. Okay, there's our flowers. Now let's attach those, and we're going to grab some Stampin' Dimensionals to do that. You don't need a lot. In fact, one would hold this one just fine. You can use two if you wish, but I'm going to use one on my smaller flower, and I will use two on my larger flower. If you've been with me for a long time, you know that I am not used to not having long nails. I'm beginning month 2 here of my little break. And so I'll tell you, there's some pros and cons. I really do miss them, and yet peeling off the backings without having to use a tool is kind of handy when you don't have long nails in the way. All right, so we're going to put our flowers. You can place them kind of wherever you wish, but I recommend the smaller one maybe up a little bit higher here on the branch, and the lower one down here in this area. All right, so our flowers are now in place, and we're going to finish by doing our stamping and decorating of our little tag with our words. All right, so I used black ink, so I've got my Memento Tuxedo Black and the stamp set from Delightful Wishes that says lots of love. I am going to stamp this on a piece of scratch paper just because it was clean and not stamped at all today, and I just want to kind of give it a warm up. Sometimes it reminds you either how inky or how dry your ink pad might be, or just how the stamp itself stamps. Like I'm remembering on this one, I tend to be heavy-handed. Look at that one. I tend to be heavy-handed on the left side, so I want to be careful that I stamp nice and evenly, like so. All right, so that is going to go at the bottom of your white small rectangle. You'll be able to see what you're doing a little bit easier than I am. I'm trying to keep my head out of your view, where usually I would want to look right down through my stamp and see what I'm doing. All right, and then let's also stamp a flower on here. And we're going to use the two colors that we used in our cardstock. So we've got Daffodil Delight and Lemon Lolly. And then there's a small little flower stamp in there, in that stamp set, which, let me see where mine is. Here we go. All right, it is a two-step stamp set, and so I'm going to take the base part of my flower. I'll show you what I'm going to do here, and then I'll do it on my cardstock. I'm going to take the base part of my flower and using, which of my yellows do I have? Using my Lemon Lolly, I'm going to stamp the basic shape of the flower, and then using the detail stamp and my Daffodil Delight, I'm going to stamp on top of that. You don't have to line it up super specially, and you'll get a beautiful little flower. All right, so on the real project, I might go off the top, so I'm going to go ahead and keep my scratch paper here in place, stamping my flower. That's the Lemon Lolly. And this is the Daffodil Delight. This now is going to get attached to that Lemon Lolly larger rounded rectangle. And I went ahead and just did it flat. You can attach it with dimensionals if you prefer. All right, then in your packet, you also have some ribbon. You have a piece of the Daffodil Delight ribbon, which is available actually if you get the whole suite that is associated with this, or you can order the ribbon separately. And I've given you about 7 or 8 inches of this, just enough to make a very simple little bow. Now, if you don't like to make a bow, or you are challenged at bow making, you can also just tie a simple knot and that will look cute. But I'm going to tie my bow and then sort it out here, evening up my loops. Like so. And I'm going to trim those tails down. So this card is not hard, but there were a lot of steps. And so it's kind of fun to follow step by step and do this along with me, or watch the video and then go back and recreate the cards. All right, so I'm using a mini glue dot to attach my bow. So I'm going to take my bow, stick it right there onto the glue dot, pressing the knot or the center of my bow into the glue, peeling it off. And now that can get attached right to the corner of that little tag that we just made. All right, let's put this onto the card and we'll finish decorating and do the inside. All right, this piece is going to land right there. Look how nicely balanced that looks. We want to make sure that we don't put any adhesive on this side where the bow is, because we don't want to accidentally glue our card shut. We need this side to be able to open. So all of our adhesive is going to go over here. It's great if you want to use your liquid glue, or you can use tear and tape, or any adhesive that is your favorite or that you have handy. All right, so I'm going to put my adhesive on the left side there. I want to get a visual what it's going to look like, so I have closed my card the way it's going to go, and I'm setting that into place. And you can see that I don't have any adhesive that is here to cause a problem with my card flap. All right, we've already got our ink and our stamps out, so we're gonna make a couple more of those cute little flowers on the inside. I'm gonna do 3. You could certainly, here's some great options. 1 little flower in the corner is great. 1 at the top and the bottom is also great. I'm gonna put 3 in my bottom corner. I don't think you can go wrong. You could also stamp them all the way down the left side or the bottom. That would be cute too. So you do whatever you feel like you want to do. I'm gonna put my 3 down here in the corner. Like so. Okay, let's put that into our card base. We're going to add 1 more little goodie on the front of the card. All right, look how pretty that is. I really like how the yellow colors look with the peach pie. I needed to readjust the placement of that. Thank goodness for multi-purpose glue. All right, there you go. The final thing that we're going to do is add a little trinket. These are our tiny bee trinkets. And if you are part of Stamp Club at Home, your trinket is in your packet. And all you're going to need to do is get a glue dot to attach your bee. So in this case, I'm going to pull my glue dot off of the backing strip using my Take Your Pick tool. And I'm going to crumble it up a little bit so it's a ball. And I'm going to just put it in place right here on the top left corner of my white piece of the tag. And then I'm going to grab a bee and stick it right into my glue. Look at how adorable that is. The detail on these tiny bee trinkets is just really pretty amazing. All right, that, my friends, is card 1 from Stamp Club. We're going to clear these things out of the way and move on to card 2. While I do that, let me show you if you had chosen to use the other side of the paper, then your finished card is going to look like this. So you're going to have this look or this look, depending on what you chose. All right, I'm going to move those out of the way. And we're going to move on to our Ocean Friends, this stamp set, but we're also using the Thinking of You stamp from With You in Mind. All right, so you're going to grab your packet that has these items in it. We're starting with a Lemon Lime Twist card base. There is some amazing coordinating paper that goes with Ocean Friends, and you have several pre-cut strips of that in your packet. That's what we're going to use to create the focal point of our card. All right, so this card is going to get scored and folded down the center at 4 1/4 inches. And the card layout is going to go this direction, all right? So this is going to be how it goes. And our white piece, the large one, is going to be right there on the card front. So we can go ahead and attach that. We're not doing any stamping on this white piece, so you are free to go ahead and attach it. Now the card that we're making right now is, of course, super cute with the papers and the colors that we're using. But you could really take this card idea, just the layout of it, and substitute your papers and your colors, and you could do so much with it. And that said, I might do a Simply Saturday video with this concept because it really is pretty fast. You've got several strips, you have 7 to be exact, of different patterns. And this is from the coordinating paper that goes with Ocean Friends. And they are 1/2 inch by 3 inches, and we are going to lay them out. I recommend starting with the middle and working your way out. Since you have 7, you're going to have a middle piece, and then you're going to have 3 on each side. So if you quickly go ahead and just line those up, you can play with them and see if you need to switch the placement. All right, so without being too fussy about it, I'm laying mine down. And if for some reason you want to flip them and check the other side out, you're welcome to do that. But basically in your packet is 4 that I would consider more printy and 3 that are a little bit more subtle. All right. So you can go ahead and use the width of the white piece. That is not a problem. And let me also mention, you can make them nice and straight, or you can kind of make them a little crooked, especially if that makes you feel better about the placement. Like if you are having a hard time getting them straight, you can also put them a little bit crooked. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I might do this one a little bit crooked, and then I have a straight one to show you. How about if we do that? All right, I'm going to start with my middle piece and glue it down. So not only are you choosing the order of your papers, but also the placement. So one a little lower, one a little higher, one a little lower, one a little higher. And then if you're also going a teeny bit crooked to the left or the right, then you'll want to keep that in mind as well. All right, I'm going to move my way out to the right side. So this one's going to come down a little bit and be a little angled to the right. This one I'm going to probably put pretty much straight up and a little bit higher than the one before it. And then this one, see, I'm kind of just deciding as I go. I'm going to put down again and at a bit of an angle. Okay, so all those 4 are down. Now I'll finish working from the center out to the left. All right, since my center one is leaning a little left, I'm going to have this one lean a little bit to the right. Like I said, I will show you a completed card where they're all straight in case you chose to do it that way. All right, so there's your 7 strips. And the colors have a nice mix. And of course the prints are so cute between the corals and the kelp and the sea stars. This piece you can hardly tell because it's such a small piece, but there's the crab and a squid. On this piece there's crab, jellyfish, lobsters, just so cute. All right, there we have it. Now you're going to take your small piece that was included in your packet. This is what we're going to stamp with the Thinking of You stamp, and that came from With You in Mind. And I'm going to use Summer Splash, which is one of the colors that is in the Designer Series paper. Okay, and it happens to be getting actually a little warm today. It started off really cloudy and cool. Now for January, we've had really warm Southern California weather. Sorry about that. I needed to reposition my mic since I took off that outer layer. As I was saying, we've had nice warm weather for January, but today it was a little cool, so I had an extra layer on. All right. Thinking of You, Summer Splash. And we're going to stamp it right in the center. We're using this piece as is, And so we're just going to stamp right in the center of it. If you like to use your Stampin' Pierce mat underneath when you're using photopolymer, that would have been a good time to pull that out and put it under this white scrap. I did not, so let's see how my image comes out. Okay, it came out beautifully. But again, often with the photopolymer, you want to put your Stampin' Pierce mat under your paper so that you get a nice crisp image. But mine came out fine, so we're gonna go with it. All right, now you have a gem of one of the colors that's in the paper. This particular one is more of the bluish green or maybe even summer splash. You might have gotten a pink gem in your packet or an orange one. Whichever color, it doesn't matter because they all look great. So let's go ahead and attach that to the left side of your white piece. And then also in your packet was a little scrap of some Melon Mambo ribbon that I believe is retired, but you know, our ribbons and embellishments usually outlast their availability. And so I had some of this. You're just going to tie a knot. The piece that you were provided is only like 4 or 6 inches long. Probably not long enough to make a bow, but all we're going to do is make a knot, and we're going to attach this to the corner here. What I'm going to do is go ahead and attach this piece to my card, and then I'll add my knot onto it. And let's pop this up with some dimensionals. All right, it is a really long piece, and so I recommend a minimum of 3. I'm going to go ahead and do all 4 corners plus 1 in the middle. I just don't like it to sag. If you're going to pop it up, let's keep it popped up, right? You don't want it sagging. All right, so 3 or 5 will work. And you have a choice to make at this point also. And I will show you I'll show you one of each. You can finish your card with this piece going straight or at an angle. Now, I'm going to put mine straight because I did my papers at an angle. I don't want the whole thing at an angle. So I'm going to go ahead and lay mine on this particular card. I'm going to put it straight. You can decide for yourself. Then we'll put that little knot on. I wanted to get it in place before I cut my tails because I wasn't sure how long to leave them. They're almost fine as is. I do think I'll trim it a smidge. So you can decide if you want to trim your tails or leave them. All right, there you have it. Now let's do the inside, and that is when our crab comes into play. So you should have a white piece in your packet for the inside of your card. Let me reach for mine. I have to go off camera for just a minute, so hold on. All right, this piece is going to go on the inside like so. And so what I'm going to do is give you the option. Both of these look really good. So either continue with your Summer Splash ink pad, or if you want to, you can switch to Calypso Coral. I'll do one in Calypso Coral so you can see what it looks like, and then at the end I'll show you both. All right, so using Calypso Coral, I'm going to stamp my crab, and the crab is 2-step stamping also. You can decide to do the detail part of the stamp first, or the outline of the stamp. It's totally up to you. I feel like with this particular image, it works great either way. You can't go wrong. So I'm going to get a piece of scratch paper, ink up my shape part of my crab and stamp it off so that I get a light version of Calypso Coral. And then I'm going to take my detail stamp, Calypso Coral again, but I'm not going to stamp it off, so this will be a darker version. And there is our adorable little crab. Oh my gosh, the stamps, we didn't use very many stamps from this stamp set, but they are adorable. Very, very nice. Okay, let's put that on the inside of our card. And that will finish up card number 2. And I will show you the different options depending on how you chose to finish yours. I'll show you my options. All right, so here we have the card that I just made with you. My strips are going at slightly different angles and my words straight, and I used a Calypso Coral crab. So there's that one. Here is another version. This one, the strips are going straight up and down, as you can see. And I took my words and put them at an angle instead. And there is the Summer Splash color of crab. And then I think I have one more. Here it is with everything straight. So strips of paper straight, words straight, and on this card I did the Calypso Coral crab on the other corner. So there you have a couple of different options. That is card number 2. Okay, let's clean those things out of our way. So if you did not use Calypso Coral on your crab, then the whole card was just done with Summer Splash. All right, we don't need that anymore. And move my inky crab stamps. All right, card number 3. I'm quite confident that even if you've been stamping with me for a very, very long time, you may not have ever done this technique before. And I'm really excited to show it to you. When you are a Stamp Club VIP, those are my gals who actually attend each month and participate in the live class. At different times get to have input into the projects. And so one of the requests this time was to show something with torn paper, and that is exactly what we're going to do. So if you are part of Stamp Club at home, go ahead and pull out your third and final packet that looks like this. You've got a card base that is Pool Party, and score and fold down the center at 4 1/4 inches. I have some sticky glue dot on me. There we go. All right, you have a white piece in your packet that is going to be for the front of the card, and you have a white piece that is going to be for the inside of the card. All right, then you also have a piece of vanilla cardstock that is the same size. Now, this piece of cardstock could really be any color. This is what we're using as our tool, but in your packet, and what I'm using, a piece of very vanilla. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to tear it lengthwise, top to bottom. And when you do paper tearing, what I like to say is you put your thumbs close together, you do your tearing in kind of a slow manner so that you can get a nice tear and a varied tear. So what's going to happen is I'm going to begin tearing like this. And I want to go straight down the center, but I do want a little bit of my tear to kind of move back and forth like that, which you can do by controlling it with your thumbs so that you have a little bit of interest and it's not just torn straight down the middle. All right, so now you've got two pieces that you just tore. You have this lovely edge that is showing all of those little card paper fibers. And on this one, it's not showing, so you're gonna want to flip that up so that it also is showing. All right, so your torn edges are both up. Now, you're going to need a scratch paper. I'm just gonna use a piece of copy paper. I'm pulling a piece from my printer that is nearby. And you're going to lay your white cardstock onto here. Now, what I would like for you to do is anchor it down onto here. So you can either do that by using a teeny bit of Stampin' Seal on the back of your card, or I'm gonna reach for a small piece of, I just dropped my glue, a small piece of artist's masking tape. This is a low tack tape. So I'm just gonna take a pinch. This is what I use all the time to hold my dies down when I'm cutting. Instead of using Post-its or washi tape, I just buy this huge roll from Amazon. And I use it for so many different purposes. I was using Post-it tape for a long time, and I do like that, but this, you get much more for the money. So I'm just gonna make a little loop. Again, it doesn't matter what you use, you just want a little something sticky on the back of this piece to hold it in place onto your scrap. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our torn side up pieces of scrap, and we're actually gonna create a space on here where we're gonna cover up some of the white cardstock. Now, the space to pay attention to, I'm trying to see with your view. I want to make sure that you're able to see. Yeah. The space that you're looking for is this white space. That's going to determine the next step. So you can either have a smaller space, and I have a finished card that has a smaller space, so you'll be able to see what that looks like, or a little bit larger white space. So it's up to you, but you do kind of want it centered. So like I don't want it down here, all right? So I'm covering up about the same amount at the top and the bottom. All right, once you've determined that, we want to tape those pieces into place so that they're not going to move on us. So back to my artist tape. But you can use whatever you want, some masking tape, it doesn't matter because this is not going to stick to your project. This is just holding it in place, like so. I told you, I know right now you're going, I've never done this before. Okay, now I did not measure how much I covered. I just kind of eyeballed it. If you are worried about it, you can measure to determine how much white cardstock you're covering on both the top and the bottom. I just eyeballed it, and I'm going to hope for the best. Okay. Also, as I'm doing this, I think that there's another stamp set. There is, that I didn't show in the beginning, that we're also using on this card. So when we get there, I'll show it to you. All right, what you're going to need now is 2 of the blender brushes. Now, if you don't have blender brushes, you can also just use a stamping sponge, which most of you probably already have, all right? So you're going to take your stamping sponge or your blender brushes. We're going to use 2 colors of ink. I am using pecan pie? Pecan pie. I'm using pecan pie and pool party. All right, the first thing that I'm gonna do is using my pecan pie. I'm gonna get a bunch of this extra stuff out of the way. There we go. Using my pecan pie and my first either Stampin' Sponge or sponge dauber you could use, or your blending brush. I'm gonna pick up my ink, and then because I don't want a splotch to show up right on my white cardstock, I'm gonna lay this down on my scrap paper first and then kind of scroll my way onto the paper. Some more ink, And so what I'm doing is just kind of smushing the color. Ooh, there was like a little crumb there. That'll make it interesting. Probably that sticky one that was on my finger a minute ago. All right, so what we're doing is we're creating a very subtle background with our two colors by swirling our ink onto this piece. There's not much rhyme or reason to it. I'm just kind of splotching my brown around, and then I'm going to stop. Switching to the second color and using a different sponge, or you could just turn your sponge over, use the other side of the sponge. Now we're going to pick up our Pool Party, and using the same method, pick up your ink, kind of put your first splotch down on your scrap paper, then move on to your white cardstock and begin to swirl or blend some of that color in there. Now, here's what I want to tell you. At this point, you may be thinking, it doesn't look like it's doing anything, but I promise you it is. All right, this is leaving more color behind than you can possibly imagine at this point. And it's exactly what we want. So just keep going. It's okay if your colors overlap a little bit. Don't worry about keeping them separate. It actually kind of looks better. All right, like I said, I had that little crumb that I picked up somewhere that gave me a swirl of color right here. I'm not going to worry about it because it is a very artsy looking background and it's not going to bother me, but that's why I have a little bit of a splotch there that you will not have going on yours, I'm sure. All right, we're going to stop there. Again, there's more going on than you realize at this point, and I'm sure that it looks lovely. Now, we're going to go back to that little detail flower that we used from Delightful Wishes. I'm going to clean it because I think I still have Daffodil Delight ink on it. And we're not using right now the base part of the flower, okay? Just the detail part of the flower. Now, let me mention, if you're doing Stamp Club at home and you do not have the Delightful Wishes stamp set yet, go ahead and use any stamps that you want. If you have a floral stamp set, great, grab that, but you really can't go wrong. Just pick a couple of small stamps to do this next step. So using my Pecan Pie ink, I'm gonna go ahead and stamp some random flowers. Onto this piece. Then I'm going to take a leaf stamp and my Pool Party ink, and I'm not really attaching my leaves to the flowers. I'm just stamping random leaves, turning my stamp every which way. Okay, filling but not overfilling our space, like so. Then I'm going to take a third stamp. So if you're using Delightful Wishes, you'll want to use the little tiny stamp that looks like little starbursts. These actually, I think, are flower centers. If you are using different stamps, grab maybe a speckle stamp or a polka dot, just something that is tiny, maybe even tiny little stars. And we're going to go back to Pecan Pie, and I'm just using these sprinkled in. Some of them I'm going to stamp off because I want a lighter version. Some I'm going to keep dark. Oh, I stuck it in my blue ink. Huh, have you ever done that before? I bet you have. Okay, let's get that corrected. All right, that is your filler. So any place that just looks a little empty, you can go ahead and add your filler. And then we're going to stop. Now, I want to move my ink pads just a little bit out of the way so I don't stick anything in them. Move my blender brushes out of the way. what we're going to do is we're going to do the big reveal. All right, so this part is really fun. So we want to remove those cardstocks. Ours is vanilla. We're going to remove those vanilla cardstock pieces like so. And you have a gorgeous torn edge center of our card, which is just going to set the stage for the rest of the card. All right, I'm going to take that and get rid of it. I'm going to set these aside. You could completely use these a second, third time. So if you want to make more cards, just set those aside. All right, this piece is going to go onto the card base. We can do that now. And can't you just begin to imagine the other color combinations that you're going to do with that fun sponged and torn edge feature? Oh my gosh, it's such a fun technique. And I honestly don't think I've ever done that technique with you, either my viewers. I know I've never done it here on YouTube, and I'm not sure that I've ever done it with my customers either. Okay, in your packet, you have a scrap that looks like this, and we are actually going to punch it out. I told you we were using one more stamp set, so let me grab it so you can see what it looks like. It's called Bright Borders, and there are actually two stamp sets that go with a coordinating punch. This is the punch. It is brand new. It's called To the Point. This is the punch we'll be using. It coordinates not only with Bright Borders, but it also coordinates with Hugs of Love. So I love that it goes with stamps from both stamp sets. All right, so with that punch, I'm going to punch mine out. If you are following along Stamp Club at home, yours has been pre-punched and prepared for you. All right, now we're going to do our stamping on it. I'm just going to mimic what I've already started over here on the center of my tag. If you're using different stamps, you can determine right now what you want your tag to say and what little decoration you want to give to it. All right, so I'm going to put one of those flowers on. First, the basic shape in Stamped Off Pecan Pie. Then the detail part in Full Strength Pecan Pie. Then I'm going to add some little leaves. This time kind of putting them associated close to the flower, like so. I'm using the word congrats from this stamp set. You can use whatever sentiment you like. Let me find my congrats. There it is. All right, this ended up a little bit lower than another finished card that I'm going to show you. My congrats is actually going to get stamped over the leaf, which is fine. On the other one, it's all just positioned a little bit different. I'm kind of liking how it looks over it. All right, and then I'm going to go in with those flower centers or the little starbursts. I'm going to go in and just do some filler with those. And then one step that is optional, but you're going to see me do it, is I'm going to go back to my blender brush, the one that I used in the pool party. So you might want to grab your sponge, and I'm just going to sponge the edges of my little tag so that I've got that little edge of pool party all the way around. So this would work with your sponge daubers, or your blender brushes. All right, like so. sponging has kind of gotten forgotten for a while, and I've been using it quite a bit again and kind of bringing it back to your attention. All right, this is going to get attached with some Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to use 4. And we're going to put this right front center of our card. Oh my gosh, that is so sweet. All right, so at this point, you can see how it would make a difference if you had left less white space here and here, or a little bit more like we did on this card. And I will show you a second example so that you can see what it looks like when it's a little bit different. All right, in your packet is a little piece of the linen thread. So let's go ahead and make a bow. You should have enough there. If yours is really kinky, go ahead and pull it between your fingernails just to straighten it out a little bit. That will help. All right, so a simple bow, and then just sort it out so that your loops are about the same size. On my card, I'm going to put this right down here, and so that kind of tells me where I want to trim my tails. And I will do that with a glue dot once again. The knot of this linen thread bow is a little bit smaller, so instead of sticking it right onto here, I think I'll just go ahead and pull up a glue dot using my Take Your Pick tool. Pull it up. I'm going to kind of roll it around, make it into a little glue ball, and then press it onto my tag. And that's where my linen thread is going to go. It's nice and loopy, so even though the congrats is under it, it doesn't keep you from being able to see what's going on there. All right. Before we finish the inside, let's put a couple of little pearls on here. I am not sure. Yes, I do have them. Let me grab my pearls. These are the Iridescent Pearls Basic Jewels. They just have a little bit more of an iridescent shine to them than like a typical pearl embellishment. And so on our card, we are using 2 of them. And I know that might be funny. We do things usually in odd numbers, but our knotted or our little linen thread bow is serving as our 3rd element. So see if I can get this to pick up. So I'm counting this as 1, 2, and 3. So instead of 3 gems, I have 3 little elements kind of in that rough triangle, which usually ends up looking very, very good. Okay, for the inside of the card, I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that there is some beautiful vellum paper that also coordinates back with the Delightful Wishes suite. There was the designer series paper that we used today, but there's also a packet of vellum prints. And so we're going to use a piece of that vellum paper. It's going to go on the bottom here of our inside panel. And before you grab your glue, I'm going to teach you something new again. If we just take our glue or even glue dots and we attach them to the back of this vellum and stick it on the white cardstock, it's going to show. And so we do not want that to happen. And so what I'm going to do is show you a little trick so that your adhesive doesn't show through your vellum. I almost stuck this in ink or something. So let me see if I can clean off the edge of my vellum paper real quick. Okay, so to do this little trick, you're going to want to grab your little silicone sheet. If you don't want to do that, you can also do this just with a clear block. But what we're going to do is make a little puddle of glue like this. And then I'm going to take a stamping sponge, or you can use a sponge dauber, and I'm just going to pick up my my glue, and I'm just going to brush it onto the back of my vellum paper. And by doing this, you avoid any globs of glue showing through the back of your vellum paper. Isn't that amazing? All right, then this can get stuck right down at the bottom edge of your white piece, serving as the inside panel of the card. Very cute. All right, and I think that gingham, of course, looks beautiful with our flowers. Look at how beautiful that is. So that is a nice way to finish this up. All right, as I'm doing this, let me see if there were a couple other little things that I was going to show you. I showed you the different versions of the first card and the second card. I want to show you a version of this one. Okay, so here is the card just completed before your eyes. And this is one that I wanted to show you where I left a little less white space at the top and the bottom. So my band of sponged colors is wider. Can you see the difference? So that's going to be determined by where you put those pieces of your torn paper. You're either going to have less white space covered, or you're going to leave more white space uncovered. All right, so that's those two examples. And then let me also show you, just for fun, some other cards done with a torn edge effect. All right, let's see what I've got here. All right, so on this card, instead of doing my sponged and decorated idea down the center of the card, instead I took my torn paper and only laid it on the edge here and did my sponging and my stamping on an edge, and we got this beautiful look. All right, another option using these same colors, I took my pieces and laid them so only the corners were exposed like that to do my blender brushes and my stamping, or sponging and stamping, to get that look. And then I've got a couple of other torn edge cards that I'm actually, this is a teaser now, I'm actually going to feature this in a separate video because the technique is different. Although they are torn, they're not with the sponging and the stamping like we did here. So here is our card inspiration for today. Today's card, or just create an interest edge on one side of the card, or perhaps on the corners. All right, so I'll bring in all three cards so that you can see all of the projects. Here was our delightful wishes. And here, let's see, which one did I make? This one. And that wraps up Stamp Club for February of 2025. Now, as I mentioned, there's lots of information for you below this video. If you've never subscribed to my channel and you did enjoy this, I invite you to subscribe and make sure that you click the notification bell so that you get notified each time I put up a new video. Be sure and look for my Simply Saturday videos, which my Saturday cards are always fast and easy cards, where these had quite a bit more steps. This one, fewer steps, but those cards are designed to be fast and easy, and it's a whole series with well over 150 videos of those as well. I do have a current host code that I will put below, and if you would like to place an order and use that host code at checkout. That would be much appreciated. And if I see that you've done that and you are a viewer here on YouTube channel, I will go ahead and send you a hand-stamped thank you card for that order. So do be sure and use the host code if you're ordering. Again, my name is Julie Baum. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and I just love bringing these ideas to you. And until next time, happy stamping.